Okay, and now we continue. Shir Ladonai Shirchash.
Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Baruch Shemo, Asru Miyom Leyom Yeshuato, Sapru Vagoyim Kevodo, Bechol Ha'amim Liflotav, Ki Gadol Adonai, halal me'od, norahu, al kol Elohim, ki kol Elohe ha'amim elilim, Adonai shamayim asa, hod v'hadar lefanav, uz v'tiferet b'mikdasho, Avul Adonai mishpechot amim, Avul Adonai kavod va'oz, Avul Adonai kevod shemo, Se'u mincha, Uvo'u lechatzrotav, Yai Yishtachavu Ladonai, Bihadrat Kodesh, Chilu mipanav, Kol haaretz, Imru vagoyim Adonai malach, Aftikon tevel, Baal timot, Yadin amim b'meisharim, Yismechu hashamayim v'tagel haaretz, Yiram hayam, Umelo, Ya'alo Sadai, Bechol Asher Bo, Yaidai, Az Yiranenu Kol Atzeyar, Lifnei Adonai Kiva Lishpot Haaretz, Yishpot Tevel Betzedek, Be'amim Be'emunato, Yai
Adonai reigns, let the earth be glad, the many distant lands rejoice. Clouds and thick darkness surround the divine, righteousness and justice secure God's throne. Fire goes before God, consuming besiegers round about. Flashes of lightning illumine the land, the earth watches and trembles. Mountains melt like wax at the approach of Adonai, at the approach of the master of all the earth. The heavens tell of God's righteousness, and all the nations see God's glory. Light is sown for the righteous, and joy for the upright. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine holy name. We continue Orza Ru'alat Tzadik.
Orza Ru'alat Tzadik, Ule Yisrael Simcha. Orza Ru'alat Tzadik, Ule Yisrael Simcha. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, v'hodu lezecher kodsho. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, v'hodu lezecher kodsho.
A psalm, sing to Adonai a new song, for Adonai has wrought wonders. God's right hand and holy arm have brought deliverance. Adonai declared deliverance as nations looked on. God's righteousness was revealed. Call out to Adonai, all the earth. Break out in joyful singing. Sing to Adonai to the music of the lyre. Lyre and voices making music together with horns and shofar cries. Trumpet the presence of the sovereign Adonai. We continue on page 18 in both Sidurim, beginning Zamru Adonai Bechinor, about 3 lines from the top in Sidur Lev Shalem, and about halfway down in Sidur Sim Shalom.
Zamru Adonai Bechinor, Bechinor, Zimra, Bachatotrot, Vekol Shofar, Ariel Lifnei Amelech Adonai. Tevel v'yoshveva neharot chad harim lifnei Adonai kivan lishpot haaretz yishpot tevel b'tzedek ve'amim b'mei sharim Yiram Tevel v'yoshveva Neharot
Adonai reigns, nations tremble. The one enthroned amidst the Kruvim makes the world quake. Adonai is great in Zion above all nations. They shall acknowledge your name, saying, Great, inspiring Holy One. A sovereign strength lies in the love of justice, and you forge the paths of truth, judging Jacob righteously and justly. Exalt Adonai our God, bow down before God the Holy One. Moses and Aaron among God's priests, and Samuel amongst those who called upon the divine name. They called to you, and you answered them. You spoke to them amidst the cloud. They kept your covenant and the law you gave them. Exalt Adonai our God, and bow down at God's holy mountain, for Adonai our God is holy. We continue concluding Psalm 99, Romemu.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtachavu B'har Kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtachavu B'har Kodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtachavu Lehar Kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtachavu Lehar Kodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu.
We rise as able and continue Mizmor LeDavid.
Mizmor LeDavid, Havul Adonai B'nei Elim, Havul Adonai Kavod Ba'oz, Havul Adonai Kavod Shemo, Ishtachavu Adonai B'Hagrat Kodesh, Kol Adonai Alamayim, El HaKavod Hirim, Adonai Mayim Rabim, Kol Adonai B'Koach, Kol Adonai B'Hadar, Kol Adonai Shover Arovim, Vaishaver Adonai Ator Zehobanon, Vayarkidem Kemogel, Levanon Vesirion Kemoel, Then Kemoven Re'emim, Kol Adonai Botzev Lavotesh, Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai Yacholel Ayalot, Vayachasot Ye'arot, Uvechalot Lo Merkavot, Kulo Adonai lama b'sham vayeshav Adonai melech leolam Adonai Amotin Adonai Yevarach Atamo Shalom.
You may be seated as we continue with Lecha Dodi.
Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala pene pene shabbat kabbalah. Lecha lecha dodi likrat kala pene pene shabbat kabbalah. Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad. Ishmi'anu hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad. L'shem u'tiferet eliti la 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 lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah likrat shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor ha'beracha merosh nasucha sof ma'aseh b'machshavat chila la 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 lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah Mikdash melech ir melucha hu mitzeimi tocha havecha kabacha v'hu yachmol alaychem la 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 lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah Lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah Ki na'ari me'afar kumi Livshi bigdei fartechami Aliyat ben Yishai beit Elachi Korba el nafshi get ala la 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 lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah Lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah Hitoreri Kiva kumi uri shivdaveri Kevod Adonai alayich nigla la 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 lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah Lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah Lo tevoshi velo tikalmi Mati shochachi umateni Pachi achesuni harinami Benivneta ir alti la 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 lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah Lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah V'hayulim shisa shosayich V'rachaku kol nevalayich Yasisa laich elayich Im sos chatan al kala la 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 lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah Lecha dodi likrat kala penei shabbat kabbalah Yaminu smol tifrotzi V'et Adonai ta'aritzi al yash ben parti ben ismecha ben agila la 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 lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei shabbat Kabbalah lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei shabbat Kabbalah. Boi b'shalom ateret bala. Gam b'simcha u'b'tzola. Tochem stegula. Boi chala la 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 lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei shabbat Kabbalah lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei shabbat Kabbalah.
You may be seated as we continue Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat.
Mizmor shir liyom hashabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon, uzamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid baboker chastecha, lemunatcha balelot. Nadel higayon bechinor mizmor shir liyom hashabbat tov lehadot l'Adonai uzamer l'shimcha elyon uzamer l'shimcha elyon ki simachtani Adonai befolecha b'maaseh yadecha ranei Adonai meod umachshevotecha mizmor shir liyom hashabbat tov lehodot l'Adonai uzamer l'shimcha elyon uzamer l'shimcha elyon.
A psalm, the song of the day of Shabbat. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and to sing your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, let the sound of the lyre rise up. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age, they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no flaw. We continued Tzaddik Katamar Yifrach at the end of the psalm.
Tzaddik Katamar Yifrach Keres Lebanon Shetulim Bebeit Adonai Bechatrot Eloheinu Yafrichu On Yehuvun B'Seima Tishenim V'Rachmanim L'Hagid Ki Hashar Adonai Suri V'Rachmatam. Michorot Mayim Mayim Rabim Adirim Mishperei Adir Bamaram Adonai עדותיך נאמנו מאוד, לבית פניך קודש, Adonai לאורך ימים.
Since Miriam has joined Jody and I here in the study, we now have rounded out our minyan and will continue with Kaddish Yatom for mourners and those observing Yortzeit, page 24 in Sidur Sim Shalom, page 30 in Lev Shalem. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah,
Amen.
v'yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayecho Beit Israel, v'agala v'izman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach La'olam La'olam Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei Kudsha Brichu Va'ela Minko Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Da'amiran V'yalma V'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya B'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom Imromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen.
Amen.
Chavirim, we'll pause for a moment to reflect on a little piece of today's parsha, or this week's parsha. Everything's falling down. Sorry about that. So our parsha this week introduces us to Balak, the king of Moab, who is fearful of the approaching Israelites and sends for a known prophet in the region, a fellow named Bilam. And the hope is that Bilam will act not just as a diviner to predict the future, but rather as a sorcerer who will affect the future in Balak's favor, in the Moabite favor. Bilam disabuses Balak about that possibility, though he is never successful until he produces 3 blessings instead of curses for the Israelites. But in part of his description of the people of Israel, as he looks out at the array of the Israelite camp in front of him, he says, Hein am levadad yishkon. This is a nation that lives apart, and they are not to meet the fate of other peoples. And go back about a millennium, and our teacher, Rabbi Meir of Rothenburg, who lived in the early 12th century, and in what is now the Rhineland, commented on our passage, that this is a people that lives apart, that they will be identified by their separation, and this will be their ultimate strength in the world, so that and when the people of Israel blend and mix with the other nations, this leads to them not being considered and not being significant. And on one level, as I read Rabbi Rottenberg's comment, one can't help but feel that he is an isolationist. He takes the words of the Torah here quite literally, that the Jewish people that are meant to or destined to thrive only when they exist in isolation. And it's a troubling explanation. It makes some measure of sense in his era, given that really you could either be part of the Jewish community, or if you chose to engage with the greater community, there was an expectation that you would move completely into, for him, the Christian world. I don't think he could ever imagine the reality of a society like ours, wherein the possibility exists for one to be active, committed, engaged Jewishly, and active, committed, and engaged in the world beyond the Jewish community. For him, those were antithetical models. And I think, a millennium later, part of our challenge is, in fact, how do we straddle both of those realities? How do we, in fact, be recognizable, distinguishable, and in fact, bring our own unique perspective into the world, thereby being worthy of consideration and of notice, because we are in fact articulating and promulgating the very values that Bilam saw in the Israelite camp, that Rabbi Meir of Rothenburg was trying to preserve and protect, but that in fact, it is the intention of the Torah, I believe, for us to not become isolationists, but rather that we are truly a unique and distinguished and distinctive people when we bring that to bear and have impact on the world and become exemplars and leaders of bringing the divine into the world in a way that embraces all of God's creation. So sometimes it's nice to sort of be forced to confront the realities of a different era and appreciate both the way in which the world around us changes and how our role in the world evolves at the same time. With that, let me invite you to give me 1 second to reconstitute our minyan, if I can. The downside of doing this from home is that Miriam's shuttling back and forth between the study and the kitchen, where she's got something cooking. Okay.
She's baking.
Okay. Okay.
Explain why we were laughing before.
Okay, and here she is. The brownies, yes? No?
Marble bars.
The marble bars are out of the oven. There was great rejoicing, and we can say Kaddish de Rabbanan, because Miriam's back in the room. There'd be great rejoicing just for the marble bars, but having a minyan to boot is a plus. Kaddish de Rabbanan, page 27 in Sidur Sim Shalom, page 38 in Lev Shalem. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei rabbah, Yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayecho beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach, la'olam lo me'amaya, v'yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kudusha bricha. La'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Al Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Talmidehon v'al kol Talmidehon v'al kol man da'asim b'yoraita diva atra hadain v'diva chol atar v'atar Yehei l'chon shlama rabba China v'chista v'rachamim v'chayin arichim v'zona revicha u'forkana min karam avohon divishmaya v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayin tovim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom imromav u'barachamav yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Before we conclude with Shalom Aleichem, I just want to note for you that next Friday night schedule is a little different. We are going to return to something we haven't done in almost two summers. Next week will be a Shabbat barbecue. in red, white, and blue. All right, so that is our theme and our motif going into July 4th weekend. And while dinner requires reservations, dinner and accompaniment will begin at 6 p.m., but davening will be at 7 instead of 6:30. So for those of you joining us for dinner, just remember to show up on time for dinner. For those of us who are just going to join us for davening, make a special note to yourself that we won't be coming on till 7. Okay, and now we'll conclude with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei, Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bo'achem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei, Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei, Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei, Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom Borach. Good Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbat
Good
Shabbos.
davening this evening.
Good Shabbos.
Everybody.
Good
Drive
Shabbos.
carefully.
Thank
Safe
you.
travels.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.